Ghana Bar Association dismisses allegations that it is aligned with the NPP, describing such claims as inaccurate and unfair. Supreme Court grants application from trustees of the Methodist Church of Ghana to join the religious rights action alleging religious rights violation at Wesley Girls High School. And also, Communications Minister describes chairperson of Public Accounts Committee as a friend despite a heated exchange between them during a committee sitting.
No, Honorable, I'm also a member of Parliament. Don't do this. Please, I am on the floor, Minister, Honorable. Let me make my point. Don't play sentiment.
In business, the former finance minister, Mohamed Amin Adam, cast doubt on Ghana's independence from the IMF. And on the international front, Uganda intensified border control measures following the Ebola outbreak in neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. We have details of these and many more coming up shortly. Stay with me. To start the bulletin, there was a heated exchange at the Public Accounts Committee sitting on Monday, May 18, between the Communications Minister, Sam George, and the committee chairperson, Abena Osei-Asari, over concerns of alleged poor service delivery by mobile network operators in Ghana. The tension emerged after the minister attributed the challenges facing telecommunications service delivery what he describes as weak remarks and urging him to stick to the point. Here I said.
Private businesses are about making profits, and those profits they paid to you over 8 years at the Finance Ministry as corporate taxes. Policy decision and policy leadership ought to make sure that we took steps to protect the customer. And I'm saying that we, under this reset agenda and under a responsible government, have done so.
Minister, Honorable, I'm also a member of Parliament. Don't do this. Please, I am on the floor, Honorable. Let me make my point. Don't play sentiment. Chairman, until and unless policy decision is making, Honorable, you need to rein in the honorable member. She's being unruly.
No,
you are being unruly. Please, this is unbecoming of a member of Parliament. Please, stop doing this.
Listen, you don't have the floor.
No, I have the floor. No, so you have asked me a question. I have the floor. You will let me answer the question.
Minister,
no, you will let me answer the question. No, you won't do that, Abena. You won't do that today. Let me finish.
Minister, respectfully.
Let me finish.
No, you don't tell us what you want to do.
But you've not brought me here to talk down with me as well.
Nobody is doing that to you.
I listen to you. Minister, go on. You will listen to me as well.
Respectfully.
We have
can you turn off your mic?
We have asked them.
Respectfully, can you turn off your mic?
The chair gave me the floor, please.
Minister.
Minister. Honorable, don't do this.
This is our committee. Minister, respectfully, I understand.
If it's your committee, then don't invite us. But if you invite us, you ask us a question.
Minister,
so if you ask us a question, you listen to us as well.
Minister,
it's not a monologue.
Respectfully.
So respectfully, let me land.
We will let you land. Just a minute.
Sites.
Minister, respectfully, we will let you land.
It's the same
Minister,
thing
we are not coming to repeat anything. Respectfully, we will let you land. Please. Minister, we understand you are in an important position. We understand the sensitive role that you play. When you come here and we address issues, it is not that we want to talk anybody down. Never. You and I, we go beyond this. We go beyond this. It is not that we want to talk anybody down. But Minister, the situation is serious. And that is all the sentiments I'm trying to carry across.
And that's the point I'm making. That serious situations require serious actions. We didn't see that for 10 years.
Meanwhile, Communications Minister Sam George has dismissed suggestions of strained relations between himself and the chairperson of Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, Abena Osei Asari, following the tense exchange during a committee sitting. According to the minister, the heated interaction was merely part of their normal engagement and did not reflect any problem between them.
Konedu is a very good friend. Abena is a friend as well. And maybe that's part of the reason why our exchanges are very heated, because we do this in our regular conversations. But my point is very simple. The fact that we're friends does not negate from the fact that the work has to be done. I've sat on this committee for 8 years. I've been someone that has toughly questioned people, and I know that my colleagues are only returning the favor for what I did to MPP ministers, and so, but I'm a tough nut to crack, and so that's why I come prepared. The bottom line is, you can ask me any question, but you just need to give me the audience as well to respond, because if I'm responding and you don't allow me to respond, then it becomes a monologue. It's not a conversation, and people need to be able to get appreciation. Kwesi Konedu and Abena are very good friends, very, very good friends. And you saw after the program, the end of the session, the three of us huddling together and laughing. So the next time I come back again, I'll fire them. And I indicated it when, as soon as the chairman said Abena was going to ask the question, I said, why is he pushing me to Abena again? Because, I mean, but I think that Abena and Konedu do their work as members of parliament. They do a very good job of scrutinizing and asking the probing questions. And I also will do my job of also holding my own and stating my position. So no hard feelings, no bad blood. I'm going to join them for lunch.
A parliamentary monitoring group, African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, has described clash between the communications minister and chairman of the Public Accounts Committee as blatant disrespect. Executive Director for the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Rashid Draman, urged MPs to extend courtesy to one another.
So I think for me, what was not in good taste was the fact that there was no respect for the chair. I think in parliamentary procedure and processes, and we have had occasion to say this many, many times, particularly when any member disrespects the person who is presiding, the speaker of the day. I think whenever somebody is in the chair and the person does not give you the right to speak, or gives you the right to speak and then tells you that right doesn't exist anymore, I think, there is room for respect for the chair. But you see, what they are doing is that they are mixing friendship with serious government business. You heard the comments from the minister. He and Abena are friends and so on and so forth. Calling her Abena and all those things. I think it reinforces the perception that Ghanaians have that, sometimes they pat each other on the back, and then the losers are ordinary Ghanaians. So for me, I think I don't know about arrogance, but what I would say is that at all times, any person who appears before a committee or any person who is sitting in the chamber during plenary must accord all the needed courtesies and respect to the chair. If the chair says, sit down, you don't have the floor. I think parliamentary kind of process and tradition requires that the member submit.
And so one of our biggest stories for today, the Supreme Court has granted an application from the trustees of the Methodist Church of Ghana to join the religious rights action alleging religious rights violation at Wesley Girls High School. Private legal practitioner Shafiq Osman had alleged in a writ before the Apex Court that Muslim students are not allowed to perform their religious rites. The trustees of the Methodist Church filed an application for a joinder, and though the applicants opposed their joinder, the Supreme Court said their inclusion would give a lasting solution to the matter. Meanwhile, the Apex Court has granted 14 civil society organizations leave to file their statement of case in a matter challenging the mandate of the OSP. Our legal affairs correspondent Mutala is on Zoom with details of the Wesley Girls case. Mutala, it's always a pleasure to speak to you on the bulletin. What more are we learning on the Wesley Girls case?
So Awisi Dede, the Supreme Court, in fact, a 7-member panel of the Supreme Court sat today. And the reason, one of the cases that came before the justices is in relation to the religious right violation, as has been alleged within the Wesley Girls' School. Now, the trustees of the Methodist Church filed an application. The reason they filed an application is that they've looked at it for the Apex Court, and they think that, look, the parties in the case, Shafiq Osman, a private legal practitioner, is the plaintiff. If you look at the defendants in the matter, the Board of Governors of the Wesley Girls' School, 1, the Ghana Education Service, 2, and the Attorney General, 3. I remember that a few weeks ago, the Supreme Court granted or okayed a request that the Board of Governors of the Wesley Girls' School be made a party, they are competent party to be sued or to sue. And so they have to be in that particular action before the Apex Court. It is on the back of this that the trustees of the Methodist Church think that whatever decision or the outcome of this case may be, it would affect them. And so they filed a motion asking the Apex Court to join them to the action. Now, when the action was moved or the application was moved, Deputy Attorney General, who represented the Attorney General itself and the Ghana Education Service, did not oppose to that request. But the plaintiff in the matter, through his lawyers, Shafiq Abdulaziz Gomda, opposed to that request. But the Apex Court panel of 7, presided over by the Chief Justice, Paul Bafuboni, were of the view that the trustees of the Methodist Church be joined to this particular action as a necessary party. More also, their inclusion will help bring a lasting solution to the action before the court. So on the back of that particular request from the trustees of the Methodist Church have been granted. Now, the court have given them the opportunity, have asked that all the processes that have transpired or have been filed before the court up until now be served on them. They peruse it. Then they also filed the unnecessary processes for the matter to take its normal course from there. So in relation to the Wesley Girls matter, that is how it transpired before the 7-member panel of the Apex Court justices.
Thank you so much, Murtala, for bringing us up to speed on what's happening at the Supreme Court. But Murtala, before I let you go, you are the Supreme Court, but I'm sure there are some cases at the lower court. Would you mind sharing with us?
So just before I even take you to the High Court to tell you some of the cases that were happening, also at the Supreme Court is one matter that has become very controversial in the country. Remember that Noah Damite has filed an action, a writ at the Supreme Court challenging the mandate of the OSP. That matter came up today at the Supreme Court. And once the case was called, one thing was certain. Recently, some 14 civil society organizations have asked that they be joined to the action. Today, they have moved an action before the Apex Court for leave to file their processes to be by way of statement of case to join this particular action. The reason they are asking to join is that they make the point that whatever action that has been taken against the OSP, they have a say, because before the OSP, the Office of the Special Prosecutor could come to the fore, they played very key role. They engaged the government on the day, and so they have a say. The Supreme Court believes that that is a matter that obviously the CSOs ought to be given the opportunity. So they were asked to, or they were given 14 days to file their processes and come to court and argue. But in relation to other matters that are happening at the lower court, in this context, the High Court, because the Supreme Court obviously is the apex court of the land. We have Chairman Wontumi. Currently, the matter involving the that has to do with the Tano Nimbre Forest Reserve Galamsey issues happening currently before Justice Ruby Aite. And of course, the SkyTrain is also happening right now concurrently. And our subsequent bulletin will bring you up to date on these cases.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Murtala Inusa. But Murtala spoke to some lawyers at the Supreme Court. Take a look.
It seems very clear that the court is interested in trying to hear this matter before the courts go on vacation in July, which is impressive. I think that the Supreme Court, when the Supreme Court takes charge of a matter, there's a lot of public interest in this matter. It has a lot of implications on our democratic governance. So we are happy that the court is set in a direction in terms of how fast the matter should evolve. This is what is important to the plaintiffs, and this is what we're all looking for in the matter. Our understanding is that the Attorney General has asked for 7 days to refile. Our hope is that we can agree on the memorandum of issues so that they are filed together within those 7 days. That way the court then can direct the parties as to the way forward for the arguments to be heard and then decision given as quick as possible.
The National Health Students Association of Ghana has raised alarm over what it describes as growing frustration, psychological distress, and uncertainty surrounding the ongoing recruitment exercise by the Ministry of Health. According to the association, the ministry itself has acknowledged that more than 100,000 trained health professionals remain unemployed nationwide, yet the current financial clearance reportedly covers only about 8,000 recruitment across all categories. The association argued that the figure represents less than 8% of the total backlog, raising concerns about the fate of thousands of qualified professionals who have waited years for employment opportunities in the health sector. Let's have a conversation on this. The national president and chief spokesperson for the National Health Students Association of Ghana, Ahmed Yakubu, joins me on a bulletin. Ahmed, good afternoon. You have described the recruitment process as emotionally devastating. What is the exact problem with the portal?
All right, thank you very much. And a good afternoon to our lovely viewers and all health students and fresh graduates across the length and breadth of the country. So there are significant shortcomings in the ongoing recruitment, which has to do with a lot of issues surrounding the recruitment portal. The portal is mostly open just for a few minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, and then there are no slots available. So that's the no slot syndrome. A lot of qualified health graduates have accessed the portal. They stay awake throughout the night to the next morning and only not to find slots in the various regions. It's not just one region or the other. So we believe that it has been unfair, and then there are a lot of issues surrounding it.
Okay.
And further clarifications were sent 24 hours before the entire recruitment exercise ended, thereby creating confusion and uncertainty among applicants. And we were reliably informed and promised during the NDC manifesto reading that we are going to be recruited through automatic posting. And then we already know that previously the postings are done in budget. So we don't expect someone who has completed in 2021 to be struggling for fewer slots with someone who has just completed in 2025. That's unfair. So we are urging government to liaise with the Ministry of Health, and then they should fulfill their promise of automatic posting for healthcare professionals, and also making sure that they do it according to budget, and then making sure that they also increase financial clearance and also the recruitment numbers to absorb more people into the public health sector. Because we have trained for 4 to 6 years. We have doctor of pharmacy professionals, we have doctor of medilab, we have physician assistants who have studied for 4 years, we have nurses, degree nurses, diploma nurses. All these people have studied for a longer time and then have stayed home since 2020 2021, some to as far back as 2019, especially in the case of physician assistant. So we are of the view that when it comes to recruitment, they should go year by year and also.
Yakubu. Yakubu, can you hear me? Okay, it seems we have lost Yakubu.
Honorable Kando, which says that they are going to have an alternative community volunteer job for them, which we believe is unfair because we've gone to school for several years, stayed home for longer years, and also done national service, did a lot of clinical internships, attachments, and then professional licensing exams. All these things are not easy.
Yakubu, not to cut you. Yakubu, not to cut you. Are you just criticizing the volunteer arrangement? You're calling it exploitative. That is what you said in your statement.
Yes.
Is it that your association is solely against volunteerism?
We are not against volunteerism, but we believe that they should rather absorb them. They should rather focus on increasing the financial clearance and then absorbing more people, because the 8,000 they are recruiting out of the 105,000 is just 7.6% of the backlog of healthcare providers or professionals that are home.
Clearly. Okay. Before you came out with a statement, was there a moment where you tried sitting with the Ministry of Health to lay down your problems to them?
Yes, please. As a president and chief spokesperson of the association, with my executives, we have been having a lot of engagement with the ministry. Right from the launching of the free primary health care, we served the office of the Honorable Minister a letter, and then we were ready to support his vision and focuses, but we've not gotten any updates. So it appears that the letters we send to the ministry, we don't get updates. So this time around, we have decided.
Okay, we seem to have a problem. We seem to have a problem with Ahmed Yakubu's sound there. But let's do more stories. The Ministry of Health says 6,245 out of 6,500 nursing and midwifery recruitment slots approved by government have been successfully filled through its online recruitment portal. Director of Human Resources at the Ministry, Frederick Mensah Champon, says the focus is on strengthening preventive community-based and primary healthcare delivery, especially in underserved areas across the country.
According to the Ministry of Health, about 53,440 health professionals applied through the recruitment portal. The ministry says a total of 6,245 nursing and midwifery applications were successfully submitted out of the 6,500 approved slots. Authorities say the remaining positions have been reserved for critical areas within teaching hospitals and specialized health institutions, including psychiatric hospitals.
Based on the submissions from the relevant agencies, more professional groups were also considered. However, those with a higher impact on the success of the free primary health care policy received allocations. In this instance, nurse assistant preventive and registered public health nurses were prioritized in this category of nurses. Those two professions got about 40% of the 6,500 allocated to nurses.
Health authorities further revealed that over 87 vacancies remain unfilled, particularly for registered public health nurses and mental health nurses in some northern districts. 5 community health registered assistant positions also remain vacant. The ministry says the recruitment portal will reopen in the coming weeks to fill the outstanding vacancies and address staffing shortages in specialized institutions.
The objective of us to create this platform is for us to do redistribution of health professionals. Previously, after the recruitment process, you see people trooping and asking for change to work in the cities. But this time, you made it that when you apply, it goes directly to the district. And when you look at the platform, West Mamprusi had the highest numbers. And this also informed the ministry's deliberate effort to allocate more professionals to the rural areas and the deprived areas.
Successful applicants are expected to undergo district-level verification interviews before officially assuming duty on July 1, 2026. Government also plans to recruit medical officers and over 6,000 volunteers later this year under the free primary health care program.
After the mop-up exercise, the attention will be shifted to the agencies, regions, and the districts. The successful applicants will be invited by their respective districts for an interview, where their certificates and other important professional documents will be assessed.
Minister in charge of government communications, Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, has taken to social media to criticize the Ghana Bar Association over what he calls its loud silence on matters, accusing the association of aligning itself with the opposition NPP. According to Mr. Kwakye Ofosu, the GBA has failed to respond to the minority leader's comment because the association operates as a group in bed with the opposition NPP.
I have long dismissed the Ghana Bar Association as an NPP grouping. If it were not so, the intolerable abuse of this judge by the minority leader would have elicited an immediate, uncompromising response. They have been known to respond quickly to far less offensive commentary by non-NPP members. Alas, one of their own, an NPP lawyer, has abused a judge, so they have been loudly silent. What insufferable duplicity!
Well, the Ghana Bar Association has dismissed allegations that it is aligned with the New Patriotic Party, describing such claims as inaccurate and unfair. The reaction follows criticism by the Minister of State in charge of government communications, Felix Kwakye Ofosu, who questioned the association's silence after Minority Leader Afenyomarkin allegedly verbally attacked a judge presiding over the case involving MPP Bono Regional Chairman Abonya DC. Responding to the criticism, GBA spokesperson said the association had already begun processes to issue a statement on the matter and urged the public not to rush to conclusions. Minority Leader Alexander Afenyomarkin is pushing back against growing calls for sanctions over controversial remarks he made about a judge at the Adenta Circuit Court. The Afutu MP is facing mounting pressure from legal practitioners and civil society organizations, with calls intensifying for him to be cited for contempt over comments critics have described as offensive, scandalous, and an attack on the dignity of the judiciary. There's more.
Both ethical and within my constitutional rights to call out a judge who has no respect for the law and the rights of citizens. There is a pattern in the conduct of the Circuit Court 9 judge in political cases that go before him. I cannot in good conscience respect a judge who has no respect for the law. The minority caucus in Parliament will not shut its eyes to the conduct of this judge. A series of action will be taken in Parliament and the appropriate constitutional steps will be taken to rebuke him. Our law lords are not above the law. Questioning the excesses of a judge's pattern of conduct does not amount to an attack on his person. The Chief Justice must keep an eye on the Circuit Court 9 judge and prevail upon him to uphold the ethos of his judicial robe and wig.
Private legal practitioner George Bernard Shaw says perception of no independence in the judiciary is dangerous to the democracy of the nation. This comes as Minority Leader questioned the neutrality of a presiding judge in Abonya DC's case. Lawyer Shaw advised that a stakeholder meeting needs to be held for a better look into the matter.
Constitutional democracy, and we should go by the tenets of that way of life. If you do not agree with the decision of a judge, there are well laid down procedures and processes that you can use to address your grievance. And to come out openly like that, no matter how aggrieved you are, you should work within the parameters of the law and use the right channels. So you can't just come and, because it's scandalous, because the administration of justice is so important to our constitutional democracy, and the judiciary stand, or they occupy a pivotal role in this instance. So because if law and order break down and everybody can just say whatever they want, if they don't agree with a decision of a judge, then you are inviting anarchy, and there will be chaos, and then there wouldn't be any civilized society that we can live in, and inimical to the practice of democracy in Ghana. So because the judiciary should be independent, and if there are perceptions or whether real or perceived, it needs to be addressed, and because without that, then we are going to say that, hey, if this party is in power, then it means all judicial issues, all political issues are going to go in their favor. When it turns, it changes. No, you cannot live in a country like that.
Leading member of the Convention's People's Party, Kwame Janto, says the minority leader, Fenyo Makin, is hiding under parliamentary privilege in order to avoid being cited for contempt. He further charged the Speaker of Parliament to sanction him for tarnishing the reputation of Parliament. He further advised politicians to condemn wrongdoings by their colleagues, regardless of their political affiliation.
I'm very sad that MPP people do not see that what he said is wrong. Because most times, when politicians do things that aren't right, or that have a question mark, we should all be able to condemn it if it's wrong, and all be able to praise them if it's right. Not because it's our party person. Not because the person is our party person. He's hiding under parliamentary privilege. Because he knows that if he's cited for contempt, he can stand behind parliamentary privilege, because it says if a parliamentarian is in the line of duty, you cannot stop him. But for me, the Speaker should sanction Fenyo Makin for bringing the House into disrepute by his words. He should. He should. Because listening to what he said, I don't understand it. And he's repeated exactly what Abronye said.
Meanwhile, a member of the NPP legal team, Bernard Kwame Oredu, has described the detention of Abronye DC as undemocratic and uncalled for. He further expressed his dissatisfaction over criminalizing freedom of expression in the country. He reiterated that certain provisions in our legal system that criminalizes freedom of speech should be challenged, citing Abronye's detention. He's also spoke on GH today.
About time we query some provisions in our laws. For instance, the section 207 and 208, for which Abronye has been held before courts, as to their inconsistencies in terms of the constitutional provisions like freedom of expression. Because if there's a guarantee for freedom of expression, why should people suffer criminal prosecution for expressing themselves? It should rather come as a civil consequence. Somebody should take them on. Some sanctions meted out as a result of a civil proceedings. So I have maintained that I think it is ripe. We need to use the case of Abronye to sort of challenge and query certain provisions in our laws which criminalizes free speech. I think in this day and age, it is backward for any country to criminalize speech. So I think it is about time that the provisions such as section 207, 208, which have been weaponized by some state institutions, it's about time we test it against the constitutional provision and imperative of freedom of speech.
Well, in the news happening now, the opposition New Patriotic Party has petitioned the Dean of Diplomatic Corps over what it describes as growing crackdown on free speech and alleged criminalization of dissent in Ghana. According to the party, recent actions by state institutions against some members and supporters raise concerns about political intolerance and abuse of democratic rights in Ghana. Here is national organizer of the party, Henry Nanabuachi, speaking during the visit.
These actions by state actors under President Mohammed's administration reveal not isolated law enforcement activities, but sustained party or political intimidation. Our appeal to the diplomatic community. Your Excellency, Ghana's democracy has long benefited from the vigilance, partnership, and principled engagement of the international community. The MPP therefore respectfully call upon the diplomatic community, development partners, international human rights organizations, and defenders of democratic governance to closely monitor the deteriorating human rights and democratic governance situation in Ghana. Number 2, publicly reaffirm the importance of freedom of expression, judicial independence, due process, political pluralism in Ghana's constitutional democracy. Engage the government of Ghana on the increasing misuse of criminal prosecutions against opposition political speech and dissenting voices. 4, call for the immediate cessation of politically motivated arrests, prosecutions, arbitrary detentions, and intimidation of opposition figures, journalists, and activists. 5, encourage Ghanaian state institutions, particularly the judiciary and security services, to act strictly within the constitutional limit and without partisan basis.
Well, let's go on social media with what you've been saying. Nanama Akwa is in the studio.
Well, Afenyo is still typing on X, but let's see what you have to say on Facebook. Edmund says Afenyo simply wants Abronye to be jailed. We have Dauda. This man's attitude is even enough for me not to vote for the NPP. Foster says it's also a constitutional right to slap a police officer too, Abby, or you weren't in good conscience by then. Francis says he's a parliamentary comedian. You also have Bill Hack. You are a lawyer and should know better. You have a duty to respect the court. Evans, he is doing all this to win the sympathy of his party's flag bearer, not to strip him of his minority leadership position. We also have Adolf. See who's talking about respect. You slapped a police officer who was performing his lawful duties. Anthony says, when did you realize that judges are intimidating Ghanaians? We saw this also during your time. Awudema, I believe it's an agenda to let the judge jail Abronye. Afenyo Markins and the MPP are doing everything possible for Abronye to be kept in prison. We also have Philip. Even a CJ was forcibly removed. Who, he says, is a judge. Joshua, no matter what, he will lose his minority leader position. We also have Mishak, our last comment. Iyoko, invite him fast. He must answer a lot of questions on winnable lands, ECG containers, and much more. The nation is waiting for justice. He's still typing, telling us that the GBA should reprimand the judge in question. Well, these days coming are going to be very interesting. My name is Nanama Akwa. Dede, back over to you.
Thank you so much, Nanama Akwa, for bringing us social media comments on this situation. Let's do more stories. The floodwaters brought traffic to a standstill on sections of the Berewa Highway, severely disrupting movement along the busy Cape Coast Mankesi-Makra corridor. The rising water submerged part of the road, leaving several vehicles stranded on Monday, causing long queues in both directions. The National Disaster Management Organization, who were called to the scene, placed the blame squarely at the feet of the Infantiman Municipal Assembly, explaining that proper maintenance of the drainage system has not been done and that the responsibility lies at the door of the Assembly, who have neglected the duty.
Management officials from NADMO were deployed to the scene to assist with the evacuation of stranded motorists and to help restore order on the affected stretch. Central Regional NADMO Director Kwesi Dawood attributed the flooding to what he described as negligence by the Mfantsipim Municipal Assembly. According to him, the persistent waterlogging problem could have been avoided with regular desilting and proper infrastructure management.
The emergency situation, you handle really a clear road in Sunu Yapantim, Nakas to up and down area. Now, Nipana, Oma, Bemex, Nipana, Oma, Oda, the one standard, the cream. Now, at the Yankem say, Embra, will be a delay, will be a traffic since 3 a.m. Onyandu Biwaha. Obisu, a traffic from 4 a.m. Onyandu Biwahano. Why? Because somebody's short-term economic interest in like I say, blocking the waterway. I'm upstream neighbor, no enya time na enko bakadu na enko punimu. I'm we at National Center will not sit down for this kind of irresponsibility to continue. And so whether it's a technical officer, whether it's a engineer, whether it's a politician, whether it's a chief, whether it's a pastor, we will let the Lord deal with the person practically. We will not miss words at all. Because avoidable flood disaster. So at the chain, I find that I'm a suit in Sunana Monquema. You can share a call with us when the Habana have to know. What do we wear in a polyclinic?
The situation left many commuters frustrated with concerns over lost travel time and potential economic disruption due to halted transport activity along the key highway. NADMO says it is working with the relevant agencies to clear the floodwaters as quickly as possible.
The Accra Metropolitan Assembly has assured traders at the 31st December Makola market that the planned demolition and redevelopment exercise will be carried out with sensitivity and consideration for their livelihoods. The assurance follows growing concerns among traders over plans by the AMA to demolish portions of the markets for redevelopment. Speaking at a press conference, Assembly member for the Amamomo electoral area, Musa, spoke to the media.
The AMA reiterates that the redevelopment project is not intended to deprive traders of their livelihood, but rather to protect their long-term interests through the provision of affordable, properly planned and decent trading space. The Assembly remains committed to continuous engagement with all stakeholders through the redevelopment process, and therefore appeals to affected traders, market women, market leaders, and the general public to remain calm, cooperative with the Assembly and support the project in collective interest of the Accra's growth and development. Thank you very much.
You're still watching Newsroom here on GH1 Television with me, Awisi, Dede, Jange. It's time for business.
The Business Brief is brought to you by CompuGhana, passion for technology.
The Bank of Ghana has warned that the ongoing conflict in the Middle East could pose a risk to Ghana's economic recovery and inflation outlook. According to the central bank, rising global energy prices linked to the crisis are beginning to create fresh pressure on commodity prices and inflation globally. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Asiama, however, assured that mitigation measures will be considered to cushion the economy against possible shock.
Opening the 130th Monetary Policy Committee meeting, Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Asiama, says Ghana's economy has shown significant improvement since the last MPC meeting held in March 2026. According to him, inflation had remained on a downward trend under recent global developments, while investor confidence and external sector performance have also improved. However, Dr. Asiama cautioned that the escalating Middle East conflict and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz are creating fresh global economic pressures, particularly through rising crude oil prices.
The closure of the Strait of Hormuz has triggered a sustained surge in global energy prices. And the IMF has revised its 2026 global growth projection downward to 3.1% from an initial estimate of 3.3%, citing the adverse demand and supply effects of the conflict. So far, early indications point to a re-acceleration of headline inflation in several advanced and emerging market economies, prompting several central banks that had commenced easing cycles to pause or even to reverse course.
The governor explained that as a commodity exporting but energy importing country, Ghana remains vulnerable to increases in global fuel prices, transportation costs, and inflationary pressures. He says the Monetary Policy Committee will assess measures needed to sustain economic gains while keeping inflation expectations under control.
For a commodity exporting, energy importing economy such as ours, Ghana, the transmission channels of this external shock are multiple and material. Through fuel prices, through transportation costs, through import bills, and ultimately consumer price dynamics.
The governor further stressed that the Bank of Ghana remains committed to inflation targeting, exchange rate stability, and reforms aimed at strengthening the central bank's balance sheet and reserve management framework.
So far, early indications point to a re-acceleration of headline inflation in several advanced and emerging market economies, prompting several central banks that had commenced easing cycles to pause or even to reverse course. The 36-month PCI is a signaling instrument that reflects policy ownership and will be organized around 6 pillars: sustaining growth-friendly fiscal adjustments, enhancing the monetary and exchange rate policy framework, reinforcing financial sector stability, supporting economic diversification and inclusive growth.
The Monetary Policy Committee is expected to announce its latest policy rate decision at the end of the meeting later this week.
The Member of Parliament for Karaga and the former Finance Minister, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, has criticized Ghana's transition onto the International Monetary Fund Policy Coordination Instrument, describing it as a continuation of IMF control over the country's economic policy. Speaking on the sidelines of a minority caucus meeting, Dr. Amin Adam argued that although the new arrangement does not involve direct financial support from the IMF, the fund will still retain influence over Ghana's economic decisions and policy directions. He described the arrangement as a buy one, get two free situation, arguing that Ghana remains under IMF supervision despite not receiving additional financial support.
Yes, but in letter we have it. Because the policy coordination instrument, what does that mean? It simply means that with the IMF program, where they give you bailout and give approvals to most of the policies that we implement, under the policy coordinating instrument, there is no bailout. They are not going to give you money, but they will still approve your policies and measures. Which means that you have been enslaved. You have been enslaved. They call it what? Buy one, get two free. That is what is happening. And we are not been disciplined over the years. By going for the IMF, buy one, and now we get two free. There's an additional IMF program. This time it's free because they are not going to dispense any money to Ghana. They have to approve the minister's policies and measures.
The Environmental Protection Agency has directed the immediate shutdown of small-scale mining operations and JKCEM Mining and I Am Gold Mining Project Department at Edum Banso K9 in the Mpoho district over regulatory breaches. The directive followed a routine compliance inspection by the EPA in the Western region, during which officials discovered that the companies were operating without an EPA permit and had also engaged Chinese nationals in the operation. During the inspection, caretaker of the mine, Kwame Pepra, disclosed that the concession is owned by one Obedosei and former Impoho District Chief Executive Asa Mensah when EPA officials requested the mine's environmental certification, a mandatory requirement for all small-scale mining operations management. The management failed to produce any valid permit document. Officials also observed that activities at the concession appeared to exceed the scope of small-scale mining operations, particularly due to the involvement of Chinese nationals, a situation that has triggered further sanctions by the EPA.
Currently, EPA is embarking on a nationwide compliance within the mining sector. Information or records at the EPA reveals that the company doesn't have a valid environmental permit. Although they've commenced the process, they've not received the permit yet. But from what we've seen at the site, they've commenced the operations and even bringing ore outside. By the laws, the LI 2504 and Act 1124, you are supposed to obtain an environmental permit before you commence any undertaking. And mining is also a type of an undertaking. So the law requires that before you even open the ground or clear vegetation, you are supposed to have the environmental permit. So currently, we've directed the company to cease all operations and ensure that the necessary environmental approvals are obtained before they start. The laws also prescribe sanctions for people who commence mining activities before receiving the environmental permit. So we shall implement the sanctions prescribed under the law, and meaning that the company would be asked to pay some administrative fine.
So we heard there the EPA's Deputy Director in charge of mining, Harrison Afode. That brings us to the end of business. It's time for sports.
The Business Brief was brought to you by CompuGhana, passion for technology.
And you're welcome to sports, where the Black Stars of Ghana have begun preparations for their friendly game against Mexico ahead of the upcoming. Black Stars are currently camping in Puebla, in Mexico, with players taking part in their first training session yesterday under head coach Carlos Queiroz. Now, the friendly against Mexico is scheduled to take place on Friday, May 22, and forms part of Ghana's build-up towards the FIFA Mundial or World Cup in June. The match also serves as an important assessment opportunity for players hoping to secure a place in Carlos Queiroz's final squad for the tournament. Carlos Queiroz, 23-man squad for assignment, blending experienced internationals, Ghana's Premier League players, and emerging talents. Returnees such as Majid Ashimeru and Felix Afenejan are among the players aiming to impress the coach for a spot at the upcoming FIFA World Cup, with the Ghana team set to be rolled out in the coming days. Let's go on to the stories in England. And Arsenal last night took a huge step towards the crowning moment for them as they won 1-0 against Burnley last night in the English Premier League. A step that ensures that with the results of tonight's game between City and Bournemouth, if City don't win the game, Arsenal could become as champions of the EPL. If they win as well, then Arsenal will have to wait for next weekend's fixtures for them to get a win against Palace to end up as the champions of the English Premier League. Let's take a listen to the coach, Arteta, speaking after the game, came to an end last night.
I think in the first half we played the best football that we've played.
defending champions OKC. The match up between the Wembanyama, this season's Defensive Player of the Year, who go up against Thunder's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who has been named the NBA's most valuable player for the second straight year. And the best of 7 series got off to a thrilling start on Monday night as Spurs had a chance to win it at the end of regulation time. And then OKC in overtime before Spurs eventually prevailed 122-115 win in Game 1 of the conference final between OKC and San Antonio Spurs in the NBA playoffs finals. And that's it for us in sports. Up next, though, SE Zone.
After 2 decades of managing top Ghanaian music acts, CEO of Links Group Limited, Richie Mensah, says Links Entertainment is exiting artist management to focus on music distribution and electronics. In a video shared on his 40th birthday, the producer revealed the move aligns with a long-term plan to retire from active music production at age 40. He said the label has now transitioned into a distribution company with its next major focus being Links Electronics, aimed at enhancing music listening experience for audiences across Africa.
It has been 2 different phases. We've evolved into different things. I promised myself
Now news now. Uganda has intensified border control measures following the Ebola outbreak in neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. Health workers are screening travelers by checking temperatures and enforcing hand-washing protocols to help prevent the spread of the virus. The outbreak, which has reportedly killed more than 90 people, has been declared an international health emergency by the World Health Organization. The latest outbreak is linked to the rare strain of Ebola, for which there is currently no vaccine or specific treatment. Meanwhile, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has declared the Ebola outbreak in DR Congo and Uganda a continental public health emergency. So far, DR Congo has recorded 131 deaths for more than 500 suspected cases, while Uganda has confirmed 1 death. This brings us to the end of Newsroom here on GH1 Television with me, Awisi, Dede, Jangi. Have a wonderful afternoon.